Well, good afternoon, our listeners today. I'm Dr. Valanle Akinrambi, psychiatrist at Bright Minds MD, psychiatry practice serving New Jersey and New York, where we help people address depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges using fewer medications and lifestyle interventions. I'm here today with a special guest that I'm super excited to be talking with today because of what her expertise in. I'm happy to have with me today Dr. Carmen Jones, who is a pediatrician and a medical cannabis specialist physician. I'm going to let Dr. Jones tell us about herself, her work, and what she talks
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Balanle, for having me. Um, I am, as you mentioned, a pediatrician and a medicinal cannabis specialist. And this might be a peculiar combination and probably a good place to start. How did that happen, right?
about. Sure.
Because my board certification, yes, is in pediatrics. But at one point, probably about a little over 12 years, well, almost 12 years ago, someone asked me would I cover for them because they were doing medical cards. And I said, what the heck are you talking about? They wanted me to fill in and sign people up for the medical marijuana program in my state. I live in Nevada. So a little extra money on the side, talked with my attorney. Can I do this? What's this about? It was just about, making sure that they qualify at the state level. So I went ahead and did it. And I started enjoying quite a bit the patients. And what I mean by that is it would come in having tried multiple things in the past. They would come in having uh, not able to tolerate certain medicines. Can I try this? They would have this particular condition, and it was a qualifying one. So I would go there periodically, every couple of weeks, and fill in for this lady. My colleague who I ended up taking on the whole program from her because she had another gig somewhere else. Nonetheless, patients were coming back a year later saying things like, "Thank you for doing this. My life has been changed." Well, I mean, I'm a physician. That's what we want to do, right? But
Yes.
no one's ever said that to me after I gave them their vaccines. No one's ever, cried in my office because they were so much better. I think I was completely convinced when I heard a man tell me, I lost 40 pounds. I got a raise at home. I got a raise at work. My marriage was saved and I'm a better father.
Wow.
Like, that's not just helping with a couple of anti-inflammatory pills, like because your knees hurt.
Yeah,
That's life changing. And
absolutely.
that's what they were telling me. So let me check this out. So I began to learn about it and become way more involved in being a patient advocate, especially at the local level, and I meant legislatively at the
Wow.
local level as well as nationally. So currently, today, I own Wildflower Medical Consultants,
Okay.
and I teach patients how to use cannabis as medicine. Usually, quite difficult patients, not just someone wanting to get their card. That's usually a quick signature because they qualify. But no, I go over their medical condition. Like a regular doctor visit would, their medical history, their prescription paid, past,
Mhm.
and what they want to accomplish. Why are you here today? And the majority of people are not just curious; they are often kind of desperate because maybe they have side effects or poor tolerance of some pharmaceutical, or maybe they just want to do things more naturally. So, long answer to the first question.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's comprehensive. And I'm having so many questions as I'm listening to you talk about that journey. First of all, isn't it amazing and exciting when you do something that changes someone's life, but also that you enjoy it and it can be rewarding for not just the patient, but also for you. I always just love to hear stories like that because it's great when we can wake up and do things that are not only impactful to other people, but enjoyable for us. It's such a win-win situation. So congratulations on finding something like that for you. Second question I had was, I know that the, cannabis, cannabinoids as treatment, it's been with us probably for eons, time immemorial, but in terms of legal usage, it's evolving. And in the scientific field of study, it's evolving federally and state-wise because of like different laws and things like that. So I was curious, as you were talking about your care for patients, are you providing this primarily just in one state, or are you working with your patients in several states at present?
So when it comes to the um, states that allow cannabis to be used medicinally, I would need to be in your state to sign for you to get a license to use it. But again, I'm in Nevada. So I can only sign for patients to get a medical card for cannabis usage in Nevada.
Nevada.
However, I consult with patients all over the country.
I see.
So, in other words, if what you are trying to do is get information about how to use it medically, I can talk and teach that.
Okay. So that aspect is
Yeah,
nationwide.
right. I just
Awesome.
can't sign your medical
The card.
application, right?
Okay, thank you very much. Second follow-up question I had to that is, in terms of the life-changing effects, what kinds of diagnoses or problems do people typically come to you for cannabis as medicine? And I know that pain is one I've heard, and for my specific psychiatric population, anxiety is one that many of my patients have mentioned to me or described. But I'm curious from your perspective, with a focus on mental health, perhaps what other or what types of complaints, concerns, or diagnoses do people come to you to learn about medical cannabis
Yeah,
for?
you just reminded me to mute my phone
I forgot.
right now, so I don't get into it either. Um, all right, so you named the top two pretty much. So people, pre-pandemic pain, post-pandemic anxiety, all day long. Um, and unfortunately, the majority of people trying to use cannabis to deal with their anxiety are using it incorrectly. That again, they won't know that until we talk. Um, pain and seizure disorder, side effects from whether it be chemotherapy, of course, cancer, side effects from chemotherapy like nausea, appetite suppression, or and not having any appetite, uh, glaucoma,
Okay.
um, muscle spasms, particularly for neuromuscular disorders like multiple sclerosis. Uh, a lot of times the states will identify certain diseases, and that always bothers me because they will name something very rare, like that one or two people in the whole state have. I prefer and actually helped get this law changed in Nevada, where we call them, you know, a broad spectrum, like um, neuro pathological diseases.
Got
You
you.
know, that way you get the
An
entire
umbrella.
right. Because why are we nitpicking over this rare illness versus that one? It,
Right.
you know, pain is pain,
Right.
whether it's coming from something which people may think is simple, like menstrual pain, or if it's coming from, a tumor in your back, it's
Right.
pain. And so our body reacts to it the same way, pretty much. So we have to treat it. But a lot of times, people can't take the medicines, like the opiates, or they don't want to.
Okay.
So um, those are just a few. There are lots of health benefits. By the way, with regards to research,
Right.
it's blowing up. I
Okay.
mean, the common answer your doctor may have given you in the past is there's not enough research. One, that's never been true. There's not a
Interesting.
lot done in the states. Lots and lots of research has been done. Canada, Israel, those are the
Oh,
neighbors.
so other countries are studying.
Oh yeah, we just had this prohibition on us,
I
and
see.
it's fairly ridiculous, right? Because every state, all states but two, have some form of cannabis laws on the books,
Ah.
but yet we can't get our act together as a country. Just know this: it's all about money. Nothing to do with medicine. It never ever did.
Interesting. Are you saying that there's no money in it, or is it why is there no funds? And I don't want to get too deep into the political weeds, but I know that I it seems almost like there would be money to be made from, and I'd wonder why this would be stifled in that way.
It's not that money is not being made. Money is being made hand over fist. I mean, one state, I think my state made over $1 billion in tax revenue just in 1 year during the pandemic.
Wow,
Um, yeah, no, they're making lots and lots of money. They just have to figure out who gets to keep it.
I see. I see.
So so anyway, that would be called political weeds. So I'll stay.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. Another question that I had in my mind also was cannabis, cannabinoids. Like, you go on TikTok, THC, CBD, all of these acronyms and subtypes. Can you help like anyone listening today just wondering about all of this stuff? What's what? And what does what?
All right. So the plant, just like any other plant, is designed the same way, geniusly by God, has a flower on top, leaves, and roots. Okay, so that flower on top, without getting too botanical, is called a trichome. And
Okay.
within that trichome, if you look at it really closely with a microscope or even without, you can see its little crystally and little hairs. All of those things, that flower right there, or what they call the bud or the flower, is where the magic is.
Okay.
There is medicinal value that can be found in the leaves and the roots as well, but the majority of the medicinal value comes from that flower or bud. And within that is are chemicals. And one of the chemicals is called cannabinoids. Another chemical is called terpenes.
Okay.
There are flavonoids and fatty acids, all in that plant bud. And when that is broken down and processed, however it's done, people can consume it, whether it be by inhalation, by mouth or root edible, topical, and many other varieties. So within that chemical those chemical components, as I mentioned, are cannabinoids, and those are the largest molecules. So one of them being CBD, one of them being THC. But know this, there are well over 140 different cannabinoids. We are talking about two of them. And part of the reason we're only talking about two is because one of them is mind altering, if you will, or intoxicating. And America does not like to be intoxicated.
don't we
And
don't?
we are morally contradictory in that realm because we have the poison called alcohol that we constantly engage in. But the sorry, I got real heavy there.
No, I was laughing about it too when you said America doesn't like to be intoxicated. I'm like,
Right,
we don't.
right. Well, that's the whole contradiction about us as a society. We are extremely puritanical when it comes to certain things, as you can see just by turning on the TV today, but very little about others. But nonetheless, um, so well over 140 of these cannabinoids, but the most popular ones are THC and CBD. And again, one because there was a war against our being euphoric, and at some point, and then number two because CBD, how to put this, it became useful to the government, so they made it legal.
The CBD specifically.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
2018 Farm Bill allowed hemp production.
Okay.
therefore allowing CBD to be produced. CBD directly comes from, well, it comes from both versions of the plant, the marijuana version and the hemp version. But for purposes of destigmatization, I always refer to it as cannabis in general,
Okay.
because the only distinction, the distinction is not medical, not botanical, it is legal,
Legal distinctions. Got it.
right? Because the plant is the same genus and species.
Interesting.
Cannabis sativa is both hemp and the whether or not it would be legal or allowed to be consumed. Well, they created a medicine for children who have difficult, intractable seizures, and they needed that CBD to be
A part of it.
available. So they legalized it for those purposes only, but it became kind of like a Pandora's box. Once the government said, well, we can use it, but you can't, shoo, all these CBD stores started popping up. You guys remember right before the
Yes.
pandemic? They were
Yes.
popping up everywhere.
CBD oils.
That was the workaround essentially for pushing the envelope. So people started opening up their CBD stores because, after all, it's legal now. So technically they couldn't, but it was too many to fight. So they
Right.
so now that Pandora's box was open. So they still have to. I mean, government wheels of government move slowly. So, last summer President Biden decriminalized it for the federal.
Okay.
Um,
CBD specifically or both, all of the cannabinoids?
no, no, anybody that was arrested federally for a nonviolent possession, um, nonviolent cannabis possession,
Got it.
is allowed to be uh,
Free.
released. Yeah. So anyway, not again, very hard.
Politics.
It's a political plant, right?
Yes.
It is, and until they can figure out a way, I think for big pharma and big money
To get
to
together.
do the most profit, then it's going to remain scheduled.
Right.
Um,
So now, how so when people are prescribed medicinal cannabinoids, are they only getting CBD or are they getting a little bit of THC with it?
so let me go back. I forgot. I didn't finish. I wasn't very clear. So the THC is one, CBD is another cannabinoid,
Okay.
and again, there are lots more, all attached to either version of that plant, dependent on your state. Um, the card or the medical license is, first of all, not prescribed by doctors. That would be illegal.
Mm,
We, many of us, most of us, hold DEA license. And so it is still a controlled substance on the DEA schedule. So
yes.
we can only recommend, based on what your state has said, uh, is their law, that yes or no, you qualify under the state's law with this condition to use cannabis as medicine. I can't necessarily tell you where to go, what to buy, like I would write out a
Or a
prescription,
pharmacy.
but I can teach you what the characteristics of these things are.
Okay.
Maybe when you go to the dispensary, you can look for these particular components.
I see.
It's fairly ridiculous. However, that's where we are.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that. So the doctors who do this assessments do not write prescriptions. They mostly help a person decide if they would meet the criteria state put together by the state, their specific state, and also what they may look for when they go to a dispensary.
That's exactly right. Mhm.
And then it's a dispensary that then puts things together for people.
Yeah, every state is different. My state, for instance, the dispensaries make a lot of money. I live in a tourist state. Um, so dependent on your state or your state recommendations or qualifications, the physicians that help you and or the people behind the counter at the dispensary, affectionately known as bud tenders, um,
Uh-huh.
they they are product specialists mostly. So if I say, you know, you really don't need that much THC in whatever you're using, In fact, when you are experimenting, you use too much. That's not what we're trying to do here. You need a bigger balance between these cannabinoids. You need more CBD than THC in this case. Um, when they go to the dispensary, they can talk to the bud tender and say, I don't want that. It's got too much THC in it. Give me this.
Gotcha. So that's where the expertise comes in. And following up to that, speaking in general, of course, we're not prescribing or recommending to anyone THC, CBD, and focusing on, the vast majority of our listeners who would be people with mental health concerns like anxiety or maybe even depression. Um, I don't even know if this is a good question, but I was wondering, THC, CBD, what does what? What do you typically recommend? Again, in general, not as a prescription, of course.
No, no, no. That's exactly what we're doing here. And that's the way you've asked it is fine. When I say we can't write a prescription, I literally mean I can't write it out and sign it.
Uh-huh.
We're not discussing. So, um, within our bodies, we have something called the endocannabinoid system.
Okay.
If you went to school after the early 90s, you should have been taught about it, but probably 90% of us were not. It is still sad that only 14% of the medical schools are teaching about cannabis, yet the majority of the universities are offering cannabis training classes because there's such a large interest.
Yeah.
Medical schools are not answered or not caught up yet, nor are the general medical community. They're still very much afraid of it. But to answer the question, um, the endocannabinoid system that is working in our body, whether we use cannabis externally or not, produces two similar chemicals. Internally, our bodies make two chemicals that are similar to THC and CBD. What that means is that our bodies essentially were made for this plant, or made to metabolize similar chemicals. Endocannabinoid. Endo means within.
Right.
Uh, if we were using external cannabinoids, that would be the plant that we're all fighting about or enjoying.
Right.
Um, there are receptors in our body for these chemical components, and they literally control almost everything we do, from appetite to sleep, from reproductive system, to um, uh, uh, our moods.
Okay.
And so, with as it pertains to your patient types, every single thing is affected. So, for instance, someone whose endocannabinoid system was out of balance might try cannabis and say, "Oh my God, the world is now back in color. Before it was grays. Now I see colors."
Interesting.
And then you wonder, why is that? And it's because those receptors in that particular area of their brain were obviously underutilized, not being stimulated, however you want to say it.
Right.
But now they got what they needed, essentially, and it was restored. I will tell you that a lot of people get very annoyed because they take CBD, they know it's cannabis, so they want to feel something. Well, it's not intoxicating. So while you may want to feel that thing, you're going to have to go to the THC for that. Or sometimes people will try the THC and get the wrong thing, and they go like, "Oh my God, I was paranoid. I almost went to the emergency room. I didn't know what was going on." And clearly, that's because their brains connected with the wrong thing, and now they're bad mouthing the plant because it's bad for you. But again, every body is different, every brain is different, and that's where I come in and I talk about to them about what it is that they're trying to do. And so these receptors have actually been mapped in the body
Okay.
to uh, where it lies. All organs, your whole body, including your skin, has cannabis receptors, and so that's why every part of your body is affected.
Gotcha. So,
That's
Thank you. So, based on what you're saying, it wouldn't be a great idea to just jump in a dispensary and say, give me, this something. I'm just going to take XYZ and make up a recipe for oneself to try and treat something. It would then be wise, really, to speak with an expert such as yourself to really figure out what agents work well together, or which, what combination of these and or dosing, so to speak, of the these two types of cannabinoids to combine together, in what proportions, for example, or amounts, to achieve a specific effect. Is that a good?
Yes, that would be ideal. So it's not just, by the way, CBD and THC. Again, don't forget, there's over 140 of them. And I call them from the hemp plant the CBs because
Okay.
there's CB, CBD, CBC, CBG, CBN,
Wow.
etc.
Are they
etc.
all available at the dispensaries too?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Interesting.
it's in the plant.
However, the dispensaries are selling like edibles and things. So when you say it's available in plant, I would have this idea that they were extracted. I mean, that's how at least a lot of the CBD oil companies will advertise that they've extracted. So I would imagine that these are pure things that are being just the CBD. Are you saying that actually in dispensaries there's different combos and combinations of the different cannabinoids in the different products that are being sold?
So a little bit of both. So from the medical standpoint, I loathe isolates. I don't want you to isolate that chemical from the plant. That's what we are used to doing in Western medicine. We take something and we boil it down to the one chemical and then we put it in a pill and send it to you. Well, come on, guys, think about it like this. Let's use a very simple example of spinach. I'm going to eat some spinach because my iron is low. Wait. Before you do that, give me the spinach. I'm going to squeeze it all out and I'm going to just get the little iron that you need. And then here, now you take that. Well, there was other nutrients within that plant.
And fiber to help you digest.
There's other benefits to that plant. Why
Yeah.
can't I just eat the whole spinach? Well, no, because we're just treating this.
Uh,
Well, that's the Western medicine way of thinking, and it's not intuitive. In other words, just because Western medicine has given us a pill does not mean that every human seeks that. They know intuitively that God made this plant, and I should eat that spinach, because the other vitamins and nutrients are going to help encourage my body to accept that iron more available, more readily. We call that bioavailability. So there's no different in the cannabis plant. So when I see that people have diluted and isolated, now we just got CBD, and then 2 weeks later I get somebody going, I tried it, it didn't work. And I was like, well, no, because you used the wrong thing. So
mm,
Um, I like whole plant hemp products. They also
mm,
call them full spectrum, and that means it has everything in it. And if your state, like most of them require, properly test them in the lab before they hit the shelf, when you go there, you can look at the label and it'll tell you the top, usually, at least my state tells me the top 3 cannabinoids, top 3 terpenes, and other chemicals.
mm.
Also, one very important point, let me start by saying please do not buy your CBD at the gas station.
Like most things.
Chances are pretty good it's not been lab tested. I question Amazon as well.
Mm,
But you want to be able to ask whoever you're buying it from, show you a what we call a COA, certificate of analysis.
mm,
And this certificate of analysis is the lab breakdown, and it tells you what's in this product, how
mm,
much percentage of CBD, CBC, CBG, all these different CBs are, and whether it's been tested for pesticides, mold,
mm.
other
Gotcha.
chemical contaminants. Very important. You should not, in this day and age, be buying your weed from your plug.
speaking of, then
Mhm.
does it matter if people then smoke their products, eat it in a cookie, use it in an oil, for ailments? Does it matter, or is the bioavailability similar in terms of efficacy? Does it change
So,
anything?
so very good question from a lay standpoint. And the answer is um, the chemicals are the same. How they are metabolized in your body is multi depends on multiple things. The onset of action depends on how you take it. So there's lots of variables. From a medical standpoint, you know this to be true because you know that they have to, if someone eats it, it has to go through the stomach to the liver before it gets to the bloodstream. If you inhale it, it's almost a direct hit to the bloodstream
Mm,
because of the metabolism or the fact that the chemical is processed so quickly from the lung into the bloodstream.
right,
If you put it on your skin, is it deep and does it penetrate deep enough to enter? And how long does that take?
right,
So the little tinctures that they put under they talk about using under your tongue.
right.
So all of these mechanisms of action have different onsets and, of course, different effects. So which one to take depends on a number of things. What are you trying to treat? You got to go to work today. You know, are you treating a cancer? Are you just trying to calm down so you can go grocery shopping? A number of different things factor into what product is best for you. There are people that don't smoke, never smoke, don't ever want to smoke. Cool. Then try it this way. Because again, they make everything now from nasal sprays to suppositories.
So a variety of delivery methods. Okay. All of this again is just highlighting to me that for people to really use this correctly, for them to use it in the best way for what they need it for, to again consult with someone who really knows these products very well, combinations, the chemicals in it, and how to combine it for specific ailments. One big question, and I realize that we're pushing our time now, but I cannot not ask you about side effects, right? When we talk in the medical community, as you might have seen as well, like there's the hyperemesis that, we all worry about with daily use, for example, of, I guess not the products, but I think smoking marijuana on a daily basis, for example, is very heavily talked about. Other kinds of side effects, or especially in combination with pharmaceuticals. So for me, many of my patients will tell me, I have them on an SSRI, but they're also, using a product or smoking. I guess I want to make this broad and ask how would you advise or counsel, or what are your thoughts about that? Speaking more generally.
So you asked a very loaded question, a compound question, if you will. Um, you mentioned, so I think I'm going to talk about side effects in general first.
Okay.
And then you mentioned hyperemesis, and then you also mentioned something else after that.
Talking about combination with medicines like SSRIs, what's the current thought on that? Three questions.
Thank you very much. All right. So the side effects, let's start with they are often temporary and not lethal. Let's start there. There's not many drugs that can say that. So this again I want to emphasize is a plant, and the plant is mostly used medicinally. And in the community, we have a phrase that we say this medicine is so good, I take it for the side effects. Meaning they're making a joke about being high because they like that feeling. But this medicine is so good, I use it for the side effect. So naturally, a THC has a side effect of euphoria. The degree of euphoria will depend on your brain. Everybody here knows someone who, um, you know, is Snoop Dogg Jr. and can smoke all day long and run a major company.
Mm,
If you didn't know it, you just didn't ask because there's someone in your life, everybody listening right now, who's capable of doing that. Then there's someone out there who's lightweight. One or two puffs on a cannabis uh,
Vapor.
joint or vape or whatever sleeps for the next 12 hours. So it depends. Also, not only that on your the product, but on your body makeup, on your genetics, lots of factors. With regards to the most hyped up side effect that the doctors freak out about because that's all they know and they glammed onto something is something called hyperemesis syndrome. Oh, it is, first of all, extremely rare. It is highly overdiagnosed. It is not proven to have causation, but only association. Unfortunately, for the person that gets it, truly has it, they can no longer use THC again. It is literally like almost like a poison to their body. And a lot of them will have gotten it because they were heavy users frequently. But the fact is very true that it remains unknown as to the origin. My last study on the subject was that it was highly related to your genetic predisposition, more so than what particular product was used,
Mm.
or how often, or any of that. But again, every study should be scrutinized. Let me just say this. In 2020, an article came out from a 2018 study that showed that the government truly was funding only or primarily medical research that came back with negative results. So if you wanted to study marijuana and wanted to say it was good, you were not getting funded. If you wanted to say
Mm.
harmful in this way, that way, or the other way, you can get funded.
Mm. So there's
So
bias in funding too.
it was bias in funding. And this is very hypocritical, though, because in 1993 and other years, the government held patent for cannabis,
Mm.
its own patent. So
Mm.
there's a lot of that kind of conversation. But again, let me pull me back from right major side effects, particularly of THC. Racing heart, sometimes your high blood pressure will go up. You will have obviously some mobility issues, some distortion in your thinking, memory, short term memory loss, etc. Um, None of it is permanent, none of it is long lasting, almost all of it is temporary, and none of it is fatal. This is key. No one, nowhere, ever, ever has died from overdose in cannabis. The possibility of addiction has to be very carefully discussed
Okay.
because there is no, okay, so psychological addiction, maybe not physiologic addiction.
Okay.
For the super heavy users, there may be some additional physical things, but very that doesn't fall, not everybody falls into that category. Very few people fall into that category. So as we expand to the west of the country, and as more people start to use it, we're going to get more data,
Okay.
and hopefully they'll be studying it properly. Right now, the anti-cannabis people are still doing retroactive studies. Even last week, another one coming out to say cannabis bad. Yeah, well, except for too many people are doing better without it. The
Mm.
opioid industry most definitely felt the pain, not only from those lawsuits, but because people were stopping to take it.
People crossing over from opioids into using cannabis products for
Yeah.
their pain.
So that makes let me segue then there into the last part, which is regarding medicine interactions. That is another thing that I want to emphasize: finding your local cannabis physician, because there are some medicine interactions that need to be discussed, particularly with CBD. And I will just mention that one as an example. CBD interacts with the body. If any patient out there has ever been told to use the grapefruit method, like the grapefruit warning, like
Mhm.
if you take this medicine, please don't use grapefruit or interfere with the metabolism. CBD is similar in warning, and it has to do it because it's filtered or metabolized through the liver,
Mm.
through cytokine P450,
A450.
and other Ps,
Mhm.
numbers following it in terms of their metabolism. So um, the only other thing I need to stress it's very difficult to find a good cannabis combination for patients with schizophrenia. The
Mm,
other thing that the media likes to hype is you use this, you can get like you can it can cause psychosis. What they forgot to tell you is the psychosis that they're talking about is the paranoia everyone else laughs about.
mm,
So when you hear about someone having, tried cannabis for the first time and they go like, oh my God, I was so paranoid. That's the psychosis that the papers are talking about. We know that's temporary. Go sleep it off. Go take a shower. A number of things, to get that off, that high off you, or just
mhm,
wake it.
mhm.
But for a person with schizophrenia, that would not be a good side effect.
Combination, right?
So there are people who have figured out ways to take care of themselves with schizophrenia and cannabis by choice, but it is not going to be my very first recommendation.
For them.
CBD, yes. THC, no.
Got it. And that's because THC is a primarily, at least one of the main psychoactive
It's it's
subchemicals within.
it's because the THC is the one that has the paranoid or psychotic side effect,
Got it. Got it.
and we don't want to add to the troubles of the person with schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is wholesome. And what I'm hearing again is that there's a lot of more nuanced conversations that need to be had, and both by the public and the medical community, in understanding uh, cannabinoids, cannabis products, a cannabis plant, as well as looking at the applications. And as we're speaking, I'm thinking many pharmaceutical agents that we use already, non plant based, but like the pharmaceuticals, they have uses, but they also have side effects. But for cannabis, we, I think, tend to talk a lot more about the side effects, the bad ends, without really balancing that conversation with how does it help people, what positives, and how to use it safely, when people are going to use it. So thank you so very much for sharing your expertise with all of us today. I've learned a lot, and I know a lot more about it now than I did at the beginning of this conversation. So thank you very much. Do you have any thoughts or any, words you'd like to leave with anyone listening today?
Yes, again, thank you for the opportunity to share what I have learned about the plant with your audience.
Thank you.
Um, I would like to mention a couple of things. You just said that you realize there's many nuances, and I want to emphasize that. So we have the medicinal values, we have the social impact, we have the impact in general on the healthcare system, we have the political impact, and obviously there's another one that we haven't mentioned, that's equitable equity. There's a lot of people still in jail for this plant, whether they were using it or selling it. And there's a lot of people not in jail
Mm,
that are making a lot of money.
mm,
So this one plant has a lot of different areas or arms where we can discuss the topic. So that's how come every time you would ask the question or you realize, oh, there's more down this pathway, there's more down this pathway.
mm,
So for people that are interested in learning more or getting a consultation, you can certainly um, set one with me. I have a website. It's called wildflowermedical.com. And you can schedule a consultation only. You don't have to get a medical card. You find someone locally. And then when that person may know your state better, on how to use cannabis as medicine. Make sure it's not just someone who wants to sign off on a card, keep you in there for 2 minutes, take your money. But find out, look at the reviews, find out if someone's teaching.
mm.
So for patients who are truly interested in using it, I would ask you to seek out a cannabis medicine specialist. We are trying to establish a new specialty called endocannabinology. So you will hear that some of us are starting to call ourselves endocannabinologists as certifications. So come on board, then we will have better standing. Maybe in about 10 years from now, we'll have
Maybe sooner than that.
a board or something. And then finally, if you are interested in the other areas of cannabis, like I just mentioned, whether it be for advocacy, equity, or anything as it pertains to the community, there are lots and lots of websites that you can go to educate yourself. But I am a board member of a group called ACHEM, the Association for Cannabis Health and Equity in Medicine. I am the policy co-chair, policy committee co-chair, and the chairman of what they call the Freedom Initiative Fund. So what we do is we are a group of BIPOC healers, not just physicians, but pharmacists, nurses, wellness people, naturalists, a group of BIPOC healers trying to make the world a better place. It's a more equitable place, and we focus on health equity, and that involves economics, your social equity, political, all that stuff. So, and financial, that's important. But anyway, that website is called ACHEM, ACHEMED.org. So if you are a healer out there and you would like to join us, we offer several free things in the month, free meetings in the month, and also obviously paid membership. So please feel free to go to either one of those websites, and then maybe also don't forget to start just researching yourself if you are interested in different things. But be aware, there's a lot of people out there that don't want you to know the truth. So I will end on that. Again, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll put in your information under the video so that people can click and read more and learn more and connect with you if they want to. That'll be all for today. Thank you so very much for sharing your knowledge. And I hope you have, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you now.